Hello, thanks for being here. This information is sort of an update on standards-based grading, sort of the questions that have come in recently about how standards-based grading works and what it looks like and sort of the gaps that we're seeing in students' knowledge. And it's also a little bit about how to support your student during distance learning at home, since the COVID cases are going up and up and up, unfortunately, and this isn't looking too promising to go back to school soon. So a reminder of lower adolescent, and just in case you're new, lower adolescent is 7th through 9th grades. There's a program director, that's me. I kind of oversee it all. My name's Tammy Lindberg. And just make sure that we're following the right pedagogy and holding our culture and the character. It's a team of 27 guides and assistants, 200 students, and it's an intense focus on the humanity of the student during this transitional time. Our students are typically coming into 7th grade with lower executive functioning skills. So that's the ability to like organize your work and prioritize all the things you have to do in a day. They're really socially justice minded. So this time in history provides a lot to talk about and grapple with. And they're really social beings. So we see a lot of collaboration, a lot of group work, and we're bringing that through to right now in the form of like breakout groups and Google Docs that are shared and all sorts of different ways. So yeah, that's lower adolescent. As we sort of move into standards-based grading and trying to clarify, the one first main point that we need to talk about is the distinguishing points between summative and formative work or assignments. And so when we talk about formative, those are the assignments that lead up to a whole picture of understanding. The formative work or assignments we really want to call practice. So formative practice doesn't count for anything in the gradebook because it's practice. So if a student comes into a class and is learning, having a nice progression from 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s up to 4s and 5s and maybe 6s and 7s, that's what we want to see. The 6s, the 5s, the 4s on the summatives is great. That's right where we want to be. That practice is akin to working on your soccer drills or maybe at the bar in ballet. You're working on those skills to try and gain competency with them. On the other hand, the flip side is the summative assessments, which those are like the final, the big tests, the big projects at the end, maybe at the end of or in the middle of a learning cycle if the guide is assessing on one learning objective in the middle, kind of to see how it goes. We call these demonstrations of learning because you are demonstrating to the guide what you know and what you don't know and what gaps and areas need to be filled in. That's like the soccer game or the ballet recital. And similarly, guides in standards-based grading are seen as coaches or facilitators. So we're giving feedback, we're kind of helping students understand the skills and making sure that they're progressing. So with that in mind, how do grades calculate into the gradebook and what does it look like? A reminder of our grading scale. So it's out of a 7-point scale. If your student is getting 1s and 2s, that's an area of concern. They're not on track. It's equitable to an F or a D, and that would show up in PowerSchool and on your transcripts. The 1s and 2s show up in Schoology, and I'll show you what that looks like. 3s is an area of concern, but it's doing okay. Typically a lot of 7th graders, 8th graders start out there when they're learning new knowledge, especially in that formative work. Nearing proficiency is a 4. Proficient is an A. So it's not 5 out of 7 on a mathematical scale. A 5 represents an A, a 4 a B. So we're getting a lot of questions from students like, but I only got a 4 out of 7, or I only got a 3 out of 7. And we're saying that's okay. That's where you sort of need to be, especially in 3s, on your formative work that you're learning. And sometimes within distance learning in this time of a pandemic and elections and social justice events happening in our city, a 3 is where a student is shooting. It just depends on what they're looking for. And so each guide will have rubrics for those bigger summative assessments that describe out how or what they're looking for on those demonstrations of learning at the end. So a student could say, well, I got a lot going on. I'm just gonna shoot for a C today. And that's okay. It's a time to do that right now. So when we think about our grading scale, this link is viewable at this link here. This chart is viewable at this link. So you can really see, I've color-coded them corresponding to each one, broadly what we're looking for. And then I also have this chart at this link for you. And you can see that we're looking for 4 main skills overall: quality of work, understanding, critical and creative thinking, and use of knowledge and skills. And you can see how that progresses throughout the different numbers of scales. So definitely check that out. And so what does this look like in the gradebook? In the gradebook, your student can view this. So your student, this is Ginny Weasley, and a famous Harry Potter character. You can see the grades that she's gotten. What we're doing is putting in a 1 and marking if it's missing in a comment. So you should be able to see that, or a 1 if it's incomplete. So you can see the comments here. And if there's no comment, like this 9th year reflection, it just means that they just got a 1. It was of poor quality, and we can go back to sort of this slide and figure out what does 1 mean across the board. So at her summit, these 1s make no difference under the formative category. They are a good indicator to people that support the student, how the student is progressing in their work, if they're turning it in, if it's complete, or if there's big gaps in knowledge. Down in the summative, this is what counts for 100% of the student's grade. Ginny got a 3 on the cell structure and function exam, and she did not turn in this final quiz. So she got a 1 there. So her overall course grade then is a 2. And what that tells us is that she has some developing knowledge of the cell structure and function, but we can't really thoroughly assess what she knows because she did not turn in that final demonstration of learning. So we're putting a 1 so that it tells you, the caregiver, that something's wrong, it's not on track, and then we're also telling you it's missing. So that course grade, then reminder, it corresponds to the 2. So Ginny is getting a D in that class, where if she turned in both of her assignments, she'd be getting a 3. So this is an area of concern. If you're seeing that and for some reason you haven't heard from your guide, reach out, but also reach out to the guide and the student and make a plan to get better at this. If we look at another student, this is Molly. You can see that Molly is progressing in her formative work. She's getting some 2s, her formative practice. She's getting 2s and 3s and some 1s. None of that calculates into the final grade. The only thing that calculates into this final grade is this this summative demonstration of learning. Remember, that's that 100% right there. She got a 4 on the first demonstration of learning and a 1 on the second, bringing the 4 down to a 2.5. So again, another area of concern for Molly. And then our third sort of in-depth look. This is Ronald Weasley. You can see he is progressing exactly how we want it to go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what it should look like throughout the course, starting a little bit lower as you're gaining skills and doing better as you're finalizing your skill acquirement and going through that practice. So the summative works, he received 2 5s on his demonstration of learning for a total course grade of 5, which correlates to an A-, which is proficient, doing great. If your student is like, but I don't know how to get to mastery or exceeds mastery, if you look through these 2, mastery and exceeding mastery, you can sort of brainstorm ideas with them as well. And the student could also visit a guide during office hours or during their one-on-one check-in during indie work and talk more about that too. But with Montessori, the student should be generating the idea to get up into the 6 and 7, bringing it out into the world, working with other students, applying it in other areas. So, are students still allowed to submit evidence of learning, late summative assignments, during cycle B? So cycle B ends on the 10th, tomorrow. And if a student is needing to submit a summative assignment or a summative evidence of learning after, a day or 2 of it, they can talk to their guide and make a plan. If it's going to be like a day late, talk to your guide. But if it's after, the 10th, you should submit it to Schoology on December 19th and use this late assignment form. It could also be any day before January 4th. And that is when, I'm going to write that right there. That is when the new learning cycle B, comes back around. So next week on November 17th, students will start on cycle A again. So they'll have their schedule in Schoology, and the 9th graders will have their Spanish, their Lit, and so civics and government class back. So they'll continue working on those. The 7-8 will go back to their first round, which was humanities or occupations, and math will continue. So you can still do that. There's a whole process for it. And I just want to remind you all of the requirements of the LA student. So we have noble adolescent work that happens every day. Those are the things, and I'll go back and make sure this is linked before I send it out to you. Those are the things like, what are they curious about? Who can they help? How can they get out into the world and experience more? So a lot of students are researching things they're interested in, or practicing juggling, doing chores, hanging out with their siblings. The physical expression is also every day, 30 minutes. is what we're looking for of moving your body. And that helps the student become more aware with their body as they're growing so much during this period of time, especially those 9th graders. But 7th graders take quite a leap too. Mindfulness is also supposed to be the 30 minutes from 8:30 to 9. And it's anything from meditating, a walk, healthy eating in the morning. Maybe it's also a cupcake in the morning. I have a mother that eats chocolate every morning when she's having a bad day. And then independent reading for 30 minutes every day. And that right there, independent reading, is the most important thing to do to close any gaps you have in knowledge. So as a reader myself, that one's the most important. Every student has a book that they read every month. So reminder of that. How to support your student during COVID-19. So what I'm noticing is that students are really having trouble finding their purpose or their why of why they're doing online school right now, distance learning. And so you want to remind them, and we do this at school too, what is their purpose? What problems do they want to solve in the world? And it could be big picture, sort of akin to the question about like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But you don't want to talk about college or life after high school. It's too far off. But thinking about like right now, what problems would you solve and how would you solve them? How could you be a part of that right now? Bringing that purpose back into them. And a strong reminder that what you might be experiencing at home is grief. And, there's the cycle of grief. Grief in an adolescent can look like tears, explosive sort of blowouts, fighting, combative, and just sad and kind of mopey and not doing their work and not turning in. And here's two good resources to help you with that. So you want to be as understanding and patient as you possibly can, and then reaching out if you need support. I just want to say the importance of Wednesdays. So in my family, we call these our feral days because it really is a day where there's decreased amounts of expectations. It's a day to relax, recover, have less school meetings, have more outside time or catch up on things if needed, draw, create, really to like bring it down into what your body and your mind needs on a Wednesday. And a lot of times, like, I just need to catch up on work. And a lot of times my family and the kids I'm meeting with on Wednesday just need to like hang out and organize themselves, reorganize their brain, maybe check in with friends on a work assignment. But it's a day to focus on the student there. So it's okay if Wednesdays are a little less structured and rigid. They really do need that during this time. So what can you do? Here's one concrete thing that really makes a lot of difference as we head into our darkest days of the year, is preparing a workspace with your student, and that is cozy and inviting. So you're really thinking of plants, maybe twinkly lights, cozy blankies, bean bags, pillows, natural fibers that are helping the student feel calm, collected, and cozy. And trying to make sure that everyone in your home has a place to work, has a go-to place that they feel good working in. So give that a whirl. And here is a helpful link to our grading practices that might be of importance if you're thinking about, well, what can we expect from our guides? What should we expect from our students, if that's a question for you? So I look forward to answering a lot of questions. and see you soon.